West, a land of opportunity, adventure, a place where you can be a hero, a scoundrel, and anything in between. Play your cards right, and coming out here could be the best thing that ever happened to you. If you can survive, that is. Because here's the thing, this ain't quite the Wild West as you know it. There are ancient powers at war with each other, strange entities lurking in the dead of night with their own rules and their own peculiar motives. No matter which side you take, you better watch yourself. Don't get me wrong, rewards are waiting for those who are brave enough to unveil the mysteries out here in the land of opportunity. But opportunity can come in a pretty high price. Welcome to the Weird West.
Good afternoon and good morrow to thee, my loyal subjects. My name is MiAh the King, and today we're taking a look at yet another game just released on Steam earlier today called Weird West. Developed by Wolf-Eye Studios and published by Devolver Digital, the game is described on Steam as follows. Survive and unveil the mysteries of the Weird West through the intertwined destinies of its unusual heroes in an immersive sim from the co-creators of Dishonored and Prey. Now, when I was looking at this game, it did indeed look kinda weird, which fits its name, I guess, but it also kind of interesting. Western, isometric, role-playing, immersive sim, I mean, it looks pretty interesting at the very least. So let's dive in and see what this game has to offer us and whether it's worth its asking price of $40. By the way, this game, to my knowledge, was not released in early access. You follow the story, I think, of Jane. Her husband was taken by bandits, her son killed, and her husband was actually taken to be food for a siren, a mythical beast that eats people. Jane is a former bounty hunter who had settled down, and now it's time to pick up her irons once again and go out to find and save her husband. That's the story for you. Now then, first up, we're going to go over the positives. Number one, the game has a really interesting art style. It's not the best, but it's not bad either. It's almost like those choice games, you know the ones I mean, right? By Telltale Games. Yeah, it's almost like that, but less, a bit less comic book style and more rough. I kind of like it though. It paints a picture of a different kind of Weird West that just feels darker, which is the point. It's the Wild West, but with fantasy horrors around, like sirens, werewolves, and whatnot. So the art style, I think, is perfect for this choice of game, and even though it might not be the best, it still looks pretty good, and it at least feels very good, and that's the number one thing. Number two, the sound effects, the music, and the voice acting. Yes, you heard right, there is voice acting. Now it's limited, alright? It's not everywhere. But whenever it did pop up, it did sound appropriate. Nothing sounded forced or off or whatever. Plus the sound effects are right on the money. When you're firing your gun, it sounds like you'd think it would in the Wild West, Then you've got the music. While it's nothing super groundbreaking, artistic, or exceptionally, alone, it does bring you into the Wild West with that kind of feel. It does immerse you, and it fits the theme perfectly. Overall, I've got zero complaints about any sound effects, voice acting, or musical choices, and that's a good thing. Number three. The gameplay is a really cool take on the isometric RPG. It's a CRPG, combat role-playing game. It's not dice roll kind like Pillars of Eternity or Baldur's Gate. It's not turn-based, it's action, it's fast-paced, and it's exciting. It can also be frustrating, but in a good way. There are interactables within the environment as you travel around, each doing something different. You can kick a barrel of poison toxins at enemies right into a fire they created, and then it'll explode and kill all of them. There's also a cover system. You hide behind cover by crouching, and if you pace your shots, not try to rapid fire, then your character will briefly stand up, fire, then go back down behind cover, just like you'd see them do in those old Western movies. The movement is pretty precise, as is the aiming system. You can sneak, you can climb, you can assassinate, you can get into gunfights where both sides keep ducking behind cover. I mean, it was all really fun overall. Number four, the idea. Now, I've seen stuff like this before, Wild West, but it's got zombies or monsters or aliens or whatever, right? So the idea has been done before, but I don't think I've seen a game do it like this before. Normally when I see this, it's almost like a parody or comical or ludicrous, but not here. In this game, they take it very seriously and help it fit appropriately with the overall atmosphere of the game. It's dark, it's scary, it's depressing, and everyone knows it. And everyone in the game is aware of these sirens and werewolves and things like that. It's just a way of life. So I love how they decided to implement everything here in this game in the way that they did. Number five, the features. Okay, so hear me out. You can loot anything, sell anything. You can destroy anything and kill anyone, even key quest characters in the town. Kind of like Outer Worlds. You can choose to be a bandit, or you can choose to be a hero. There are bounties you can collect, graves you can rob, witches you can make deals with. You can hire a posse, and if you don't know what a posse is, then it's basically a group of random people picking up guns to go after an objective. So in other words, you can hire people to join your crew and go on adventures with you, and these little NPCs will follow you around and fight with you. They can and will probably die, but don't worry, you can always hire more from the saloon to come with you. You can buy a horse, which makes traveling around the world map much faster, but you can also steal a horse for a one-time faster travel type of thing as well. But after that travel, the stolen horse runs away. And yes, you heard right, there is a sort of open world here, a massive map, where you can go to different areas that give you little tiny maps, and then you can explore around them. You can mine ore, you can use that ore to upgrade your weapons or armor, or you can turn it into ingots, which you can then sell for a higher price. You can learn different skills, like the ability to enhance your pistol to shoot lightning bullets, which I personally thought was super cool and became my favorite thing to do. I mean, think about it, and you could probably do it in this game, and that's pretty awesome. Number 6, the tutorial. It's short, sweet, and to the point. It's engraved into the storyline and the gameplay. It teaches you all you need to know and helps you along the way without flooding you with information. It's easy to find those tutorials later on in the game in case you missed something, and does a great job of introducing new players to the game and just teaching them how to play and what to do. I gotta give them kudo points for this because it's a case of a tutorial done right, and I always like to sing the praises of people who have a tutorial that's done right. Number 7, the price. I mean, for all you're getting in this game, that $40 price tag is a steal. Now, sure, $40 is a bit much, but for the quality of the game here, all that is included, plus the amount of time you're going to be spending on this game, I feel like it's a very worthy price tag. These developers deserve it for sure, because this game was not half-assed. So that's about all I can think of for the positives, at least the ones that I felt were necessary to talk about without nitpicking. Next up is the negatives, but before we go into those, I'd like to make a humble request. You probably already know where this is going, but please support my tiny channel. YouTube doesn't really help or even care about its smaller channels, which means I'm here alone. So any help you guys could give would be much appreciated and would actually make a difference. Share my video, hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this, and leave me a nice comment. It might not seem like much, but every little bit really does help, especially with a smaller channel like mine. Costs you nothing, but helps me out tremendously, so please consider giving me a hand. Thank you. Now then, on to the negatives. Now, I'm going to be honest here, the game doesn't really have a lot of negatives. It doesn't have a lot of flaws. From this point on, I'm pretty much nitpicking, but I had to or else I'd feel like I was being biased or unfair. Okay, so number 1 for the negatives, you cannot customize your main character. Honestly, this is the only non-nitpicking negative I have. In such an amazing world with so much amazing stuff in it, why oh why can I not customize and make my own character? At least give me the choice of choosing to play as the mother or the father. Then, you wouldn't have to change much in the ways of the story. Almost at all. Just a few name switches in the dialogue, and that's pretty much it, at least as far as I could tell. There are some people out there who just won't play RPGs because they want to fully immerse themselves and can't because they're forced to play a specific gender or race or whatever. For instance, my wife. She loves role-playing games, but whenever she has to play one where she's forced to be a dude, it always pulls her out and she finds herself not really getting immersed and dropping the game a little later. I'm a little bit like that as well. For the most part, I can ignore it and just enjoy the game, but for the deeper RPGs that really want you to get immersed, how am I supposed to do that if I'm playing a gender not natural to me? Does that make any sense? Regardless, it's a bit frustrating that for such a gem of a game, it forces you to play a specific character, especially when they give you so many other customizations and choices that you're free to make. Not only that, but they state on the Steam store page that your choices can even affect the world, so if they're going to give you so much, why restrict you in such a way? And I guess that's why it's such an issue for me. It's almost like a giant contradiction. Number 2, the game can be a bit wonky at times. The camera controls are smooth and nice for the most part, free and able to zoom in and out as you wish, but sometimes it's easy to get confused based on how the rest of the terrain is configured. Walls will disappear, making you think you can go somewhere or do something or see something, only to realize it was just the wonky camera angle you were at that time, and you could end up feeling stupid or making a mistake. You could even shoot your gun thinking you've got a clear shot, but you didn't, and then everyone knows where you're at. Also, because of the weird isometric feel of the game, it's sometimes hard to gauge the cover system appropriately. Like, why can't I shoot him? Is there something in the way? It doesn't look like it. Wait, is it a range issue? But I'm using a long-range rifle, so why can't I hit him? It's stuff like that. It's not a big deal because after a while you can get used to it, but it is a bit daunting at first. Number 3, the controls. For the most part, they're fine. No sprinting, just shift to dodge, space to jump, right click to aim, and left click to fire. But then you get into the skills, and they are a bit nonsensical in terms of using them on a keyboard. Z through V are used for some skills, then 1 through 4 are used for others. Then shift is used. Sometimes shift is used as an ability. Sometimes skills are only used when aiming, and sometimes only when not aiming. Sometimes you need to use the mouse wheel, and don't even get me started on the weirdness with melee weapons. Best not to use those at all, by the way. They're not very well done. The switching of weapons is a bit wonky as well because you need to hold Alt, but you can also just tap Alt to switch quickly, kind of like how Mass Effect did it. But it's all just a bit much, and it can get confusing. I mean, I'm sure after some time you can figure it out and kind of make it work, but it's no less awkward with the keyboard. And it was so awkward that I kind of didn't want to get any new skills simply because I didn't want to have to be confused and weirded out by the weird control mechanisms that I've had to use to be able to use them effectively. And since there's no, turns or pausing or anything, you have to do these things on the fly, and the enemies are aggressive, so you're constantly moving and constantly rolling and dodging and ducking behind cover, but then you've got to mix into the holding the right mouse button to use a specific skill, and you got to remember where it is while you're dodging, crouching, and firing, and don't forget the healing, which is the Z through V buttons. You see how it can get confusing and how it can get awkward when you're trying to switch between using different skills, heals, dodging, shooting, crouching. So does that kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about? That's what I mean when I say the controls are just a little bit awkward. But that's about all I got for the negatives overall. And other than that first one, and I guess that third one, it was kind of me nitpicking. I only played for over an hour or so, so I don't know if you get a new main character or if you get to create one after you finish that first story of finding Jane's husband, but I'm not very hopeful that you will get to. I was hoping that after the tutorial part I'd be able to start the real game and get to customize my character, but it's not looking like I can. It's looking like I'm stuck with Jane, which overall it's fine. It's still, completely customizable in a way. I mean, you get to choose what she says and create the kind of character you want, but if you're going to do that, why not go all the way? And I think that's just the big complaint that I have. But overall, I was enjoying the game. Honestly, I mean, it's a bit awkward at times, and it's definitely different from a bunch of other games out there, but in my book, that's a good thing. It's about time we got something new and different that was also of good quality. Do I recommend this game at $40? Yes, I do. Even if you're not normally into this kind of stuff, I'd say give it a try. Within the first hour, you're going to know what you're getting into and whether it's right for you or not. And if it's not, get that refund. But if it is, then you're welcome. I personally am not going to get a refund. Regardless of whether or not I can pick and customize my own main character, I'm so fascinated by this game and its whole style and its whole approach to things that I want to keep playing and see how far it'll take me. I enjoyed it, and I recommend it. If that means anything to you, then check it out. So that's all I got for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video, and if you have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments section down below, and I'll try to respond as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.